Hi, and welcome to episode 92 of the Dinner Sisters podcast. We're two sisters taking on the nightly challenge of dinner. I'm Kate Schultz, living and working in Rhode Island. I'm a passionate cook and recipe collector, always thinking about my next meal. And pie. This week, I'm thinking about pie.
Not just any pie, savory pies, Kate.
True.
Yeah. I'm Betsy Wallace. I live, work, and raise a family in Atlanta, Georgia. I love dinner time, but can always use help planning and cooking. For my family of 5, I've got 3 kids and a couple dogs. A lot going on in this house.
Still those chickens? Chickens still alone?
Kate, no. Long story short, but a lot of them were roosters, and then we got like a viral chicken thing go through our coop, and so there's actually no chickens at the moment. Not good.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right. Well, our goal of this podcast, we want to cook a little better, learn a little bit about food, and most importantly, figure out what the heck to have for dinner. And here's how this works. Like every week, we have 3 recipes that we cooked and reviewed from popular food blogs, internet chefs, and other sources that I can find online. We'll have all these recipes, tips, the smorgasbord, and our shopping list on our website at dinnersisters.com. You can also get them sent directly to your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter if you'd like to preview the recipes before listening.
All right, Kate, this week's recipes were Cornish Pasties from King Arthur Flour, Quiche Lorraine from Once Upon a Chef, and white cheddar apple galette from Cooking Light.
Winter weather means comfort food, and what is more comforting than pie? I mean, honestly, delicious. And I thought we should bring pie to the dinner table with this episode, but not fruit or other dessert pies, although I probably could eat pumpkin pie for dinner. Truth. I'm actually talking about quiches, savory hand pies, like that sort of thing.
Yeah, I thought this was just a really fun episode, especially this time of year. We've made some pot pies on. We've kind of dipped a toe into the savory pie, Kate, but we've never really gone all in. So yeah, I thought this is like fun.
All pie all the time. So first up, we have Cornish Pasties from King Arthur Flour. And from those of you who didn't grow up in Michigan or Wisconsin, a pasty is a kind of largish hand pie. And they're usually stuffed with meat and potatoes, right? I've only seen them in the freezer. We didn't grow up far enough north to get them fresh. But if you're lucky, apparently that's amazing. So they're sturdy, and they were a lunch that miners would take with them down to eat in the mines, right? Meat, potatoes, that kind of thing. So to make these, you make a simple crust of flour, salt, butter, or lard, and an egg and water. You just cut the butter or the fat into the flour, and then you add the egg and water. Mix it all up, and you form it into 6 equal balls. Pop them in the fridge while you prepare the filling. And our version from King Arthur Flour has a mix of steak, potatoes, onions, and turnips, or maybe parsnips, whatever you can find. All you have to do is chop up the veggies and steak and season it with thyme, salt, and pepper. All the ingredients cook in the oven, including the steak, so you don't have to do anything prep with the filling, which is kind of nice. Then to make the pastry, you just roll out one of the dough balls into an 8-inch circle, put a good half cup of filling in the center, wet around the edges of the dough, and then you take the opposite sides of the circle and pull them up and over so the seam is at the top of the pie. So instead of an empanada where you kind of fold it over into a half moon shape, you're bringing the sides together to have the seam lie on the top. And you just kind of pinch the seam, pleat it together a bit, tuck the ends up, and put it on a parchment-lined baking sheet. When all of them are assembled, you brush them with an egg wash, and they bake for about 15 minutes at 400, then lower the oven to 350 and bake for another 20 to 25 minutes until they're golden brown. So, Betsy, what did your little miners think of the pasties?
Cute, Kate. Very cute. They really liked them. I mean,
nice.
Ryan felt like it needed a dipping sauce or something.
Oh,
he was like, did you miss the sauce on this? And I was like, I did not miss the sauce. Yeah.
Miners don't have sauces, Ryan. They're in the mines.
That's what I said. And then he was kind of like...
He was like, I'm not a miner.
I'm not a miner, so I'm not in a mine currently. But anyways, the kids ate these up, though. I was really happy about it. I actually put in mine, I did do the steak. I got a boneless chuck.
Nice.
For this, yep. And I did do the kind of mincing it up into little, I got it kind of what I thought was pretty nicely chopped up.
Yeah.
And then I had a sweet potato, regular potatoes, and then the onions in there. So it was good. I thought this was easy. I was thinking if I did this again, one of the things it said you could freeze them after you bake them. I might make like a double batch because it really is a lot. If you're making, I made the dough and the filling in the same night, and that ended up being a lot of like dicing because you got to do all the potatoes and the onions and the meat, and then you're making the pie dough. So I thought, oh, you could really split these two things up. The other thing I thought was I considered, should I just use the store-bought pie dough for this? But then I saw there's an egg in the...
Right. It makes it a little sturdier.
And I think you kind of need that. It felt like when they came out, they did feel a little bit sturdier. And we actually cut these. I don't know if I made them. I didn't measure the 8 inches, but mine seemed like pretty big.
They are big. They're pretty big.
So for the kids, we kind of cut them in half. And I think that sturdy dough, even cut in half, they could hold a half in their hand without it spilling out or breaking or anything like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they really liked these. And they all said, oh, I'd have this for dinner or for a hearty snack. It's not easy necessarily to make as a recipe, but it would be easy to prep and then have on like one of those sports nights or
100%.
Something like that because it feels very hearty. I mean...
Yeah. I will say the taste of these just hit the spot, right? So I'm not like coal mining, so I can't eat them every day without, having to coal mine.
Yes.
But it was really good. James loved them. The only thing he said, he's like, I wish these had more steak in it. And I was like, well, how much more steak? He's like, all steak. So that wasn't really... super... I mean, but like you can play with the ingredients. You use sweet potatoes. I used a rutabaga, I think. Or a turnip, sorry. And I didn't care for the turnip as much. So I might play with the filling a little bit. If you know you don't like turnips, add parsnips, which I might do next time. Maybe add more meat if you know that people will like more meat. I noticed that I used that half cup scoop and I really had more filling than I thought and ended up having to like restuff some of the pasties. So I would kind of like just divide the filling up into 6 parts, and then divide those up into the dough.
Yeah, I ended up with a little leftover filling too.
Yeah. Which isn't like a terrible thing, but
it's
for
just
what
a good
it's worth.
heads up. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so, this was an easy dough to work with. It's not as like, it's a little heartier, so you don't have to quite worry about the flakiness thing. And I did freeze a couple. And so I will let people know when we eat them. James ate, I left 3 in the fridge and I had 3 in the freezer, and I will let you know how the freezer ones go. I'm sure it'll be delightful. James ate 2 of them before I ate 1, he ate 2, and then that was the end of the pasties. So, like you said, this is like one of those busy, cold winter nights things, So all in all, this was a 4 out of 5 for me. What did you think?
Yeah, I'm doing the same thing. I think it was like a high 4 to 5 for me. If I would have done it ahead of time, or maybe if I batch make these, I think this could be a useful little trick up my sleeve. All right, Kate, next up we have Quiche Lorraine from Once Upon a Chef.
Quiche Lorraine is a classic dish. I've had this plenty of time in restaurants, the little cafes that serve lunch, and an iced tea, which is one of my favorite things in the world. But I've never made it at home. And this one is made easier with a store-bought crust, which I thought was a great entry into the world of quiches, right? To make it, you crisp up some thick-cut bacon, take it out of the pan and drain it, and use a little bit of that bacon fat to brown some shallots. The shallots and the bacon then just go into the pie shell, along with some grated Gruyere cheese. Then you pour in a mixture of eggs, cream, nutmeg, and cayenne pepper all over the top. And you bake that whole thing at 325 for about 40 minutes until it's just set. You don't want to overbake a quiche. It gets watery. It gets kind of rubbery tasting. So just until it's a little bit set. This smelled gorgeous when it was baking.
Yeah.
It was like butter and the bacon, a little bit of cheese. I was dying. So how did everyone like this, Betsy?
I liked it. Everyone else liked it. We were all fans of this. I think same thing here. I have not made quiche Lorraine at home, I don't think. I will occasionally make a quiche, but just kind of a like cheddar broccoli quiche or something.
Right.
So this was really, really good. And we had we let it cool just a little bit and had a sort of warm slice out of the oven, and my girls were like, oh, this is really good. It's got bacon and cheesy, and it's got the pie crust. Yeah. And I thought it was pretty easy to put together. There's really nothing. You fry up the bacon, and that's, kind of it.
So this was also a huge hit for us. Like, James was super into it, and he ate like a really enormous slice the first night in. I was like a little concerned for his health. I was like, that is a lot of egg at once.
Yeah.
But he was fine. He actually finished the whole thing off before I could get a picture. And I texted you. I was like, so James ate all the quiche.
Yes. Take a picture of yours.
So please take a picture of yours. I really liked the savory custard filling. I think it was really, really rich and smooth, but it wasn't overly heavy. So I liked her ratio for the custard.
Mm-hmm.
And like I said, it's bacon, shallot, and cheese, man. I mean, delicious. And I served this with, like, for me, James didn't have any salad. Let's be very clear. It was just a large hunk of quiche on his plate. But I was like, I'm going to make myself a little lightly dressed greens. And I put that on the side. Super happy. One thing I will say, I did not find a deep dish pie crust, which was amazing to me because I made this during Thanksgiving week, and I really thought I would be able to find a frozen deep dish pie crust, but I could not. And so there was more filling than I could fit in my shell. So I just like baked off. So I poured it all in, and I had a little left. And then I've got this little gratin dish. And so I just poured the rest of the filling in there and baked that with the quiche.
Oh,
so it was a little cook's treat. So if you end up, because your pie crust is, a little more shallow or whatever, that's just something to do. I really like this, and will likely make it again with the second pie shell I have in the freezer. So this is a 4 out of 5 for me. How about you?
Yeah, again, we're kind of agreeing on this, also giving it a 4 out of 5. And I thought the recipe was just, like, easy to use. And I liked how she started with the pre-baked or the, store-bought pie crust.
Yes, agreed.
Yeah. Okay, last recipe for the week is a white cheddar apple galette from Cooking Light.
It was actually pretty difficult to find a savory tart recipe, or savory pie recipe, that is, that was vegetarian, not a quiche, and not another sweet potato root vegetable tart thing.
Yeah, because we just did that.
And I was like, man. So I searched all over the place. But then I found this recipe and was like, oh, well, this is amazing. So it is a galette, or a free-form flat pie. I don't know how else to say it. Like, you just take the pie crust and you put it on a sheet pan and then you fold it over to kind of make the edges, and that's about it. There's no pie plate, nothing, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really easy. And the dough for this galette calls for whole wheat flour, semolina flour, the butter, salt, and water. And you just, again, rub your butter into the flour and then add water until you have a cohesive dough. You chill the flat disc of dough for about a half an hour while you make the filling. And the filling is actually pretty simple. It's just a half cup of onions that you brown in some butter with a little salt and thyme. And while that's going on, you thinly slice an apple and grate up some sharp cheddar cheese. When the dough is cold, you take it out of the fridge and you roll it into about a 14-inch disc, which I didn't really measure. I was like, this looks more than a foot. So that's what I did, Mm-hmm. You spread the onions out on the dough and then lay the apples on top. Make it as pretty as you want. And then you sprinkle the cheese kind of towards the edge where you're going to fold the crust over. And then you fold the crust over towards the center. You leave kind of a circle, a gap in the middle. Pop it in the oven. And after it's baked for a bit, then you sprinkle the little cheese on the crust for like the last 5 minutes and let that melt and pull it out. So it's this like cheesy, oniony apple tart. So how did you like it, Betsy?
So I made this just for myself, and I thought it was good. I have to tell you, because I felt like I had just done a lot of cooking, and I bought a 2-pack of pie dough for the quiche, and so I was like, oh, I'm getting pretty tempted by this second pie dough I just had.
Siren song.
Yeah. And because I didn't buy the pie crust formed,
Got it.
So I did use my second pie dough for this. I couldn't make it. So I don't know about the whole wheat crust. Right. I'm not sure. This is when I was like, I could make this with friends over, with a salad, or like, had I had more time or planned better, maybe I would have had some friends over for lunch or done something like that. I don't think my kids would have gotten really behind the like onions, apple, cheddar situation. Ryan doesn't really like onions very much, so I was like, I'm not gonna like make up an onion apple tart for dinner
and have everyone complain.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, truth be told, Betsy, I saw this recipe, was like, well, Betsy will eat this for lunch.
Yeah.
But I was like, I really like these flavors. Maybe this is more, like you said, maybe this is more of like a date night dinner or friends over dinner, depending upon, who likes what. But I agree. And also this makes a kind of a small galette with the dough that they give you.
Yeah, exactly. It would be a nice light lunch, and it was totally fine. I have some leftovers. I'm going to see how those work. I think it'll be good. Leftover.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you think?
Heat in the toaster and oven,
Yeah.
So I was surprised that how well the whole wheat flour crust actually worked with the flavors. I thought it was really tasty.
Okay.
Because it wasn't too sweet, which was kind of nice. It added a little heartier note to it. But I will say this wasn't the easiest crust I've ever worked with, so I'm not too sad that you didn't make it, Betsy, because I think you would have been annoyed. I had to keep adding water, and then I got nervous because if you add too much water to a dough, you're kind of overworking it, and then it gets tough. And so I made mine a little too dry, and then it was hard to roll out a little bit. Like, I kind of solved it, but if you're not a person who's used to working with dough, it might be kind of annoying. Mm-hmm. But I did think it was tasty. I think if you like the flavors, this wouldn't be a bad one to make with your ready-made pie dough. And just go ahead and do that. I liked this. This is kind of a delicious little meal for me. I don't know if James will ever eat it. He'll probably forget about it. But, I had a huge bunch of roasted broccoli that I made while I was kind of waiting for the dough to chill. And I had that with it, which was really good. Yeah, I mean, this would be like a solid high 3 out of 5 for me. I wouldn't necessarily recommend this recipe to someone who wasn't like used to working with pastry. But if it was someone who's pretty competent, I'd be like, yeah, you should try it. It's kind of fun, that kind of thing. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't know because I did not really work with the crust, and that was probably the most important part of the recipe as far as the recipe goes. So maybe I shouldn't rate it, but I thought the flavors were decent. And I think it's kind of like, you would know if you would like this combo. Right. So
yeah,
if it sounds good, I'd say definitely try it, and even try it with the pre-made dough. It certainly was easy, and it was a nice use of kind of these fall winterish veggies and fruit we get. Yeah.
For sure. Okay, so wrapping it all up, our winners. I'll go first. Quiche, hands down. James loved it. I think he probably ate 3/4 of that quiche.
Oh, that's so funny. We're going with the pasties this week because I think I might, kind of make that again and keep a couple in the freezer.
Mm-hmm. If any of these recipes sound good to you, make sure to check out our show notes and grocery list at dinnersisters.com. There you'll find links to all the recipes, any tips, or techniques we discussed. If you'd like to chat more with us, ask to join our Dinner Sisters Facebook group. We're at Dinner Sisters Podcast. Same on Instagram. You can find us over there too.
All right, Kate, before we head to the smorgasbord, a break. Okay, Kate, in the smorgasbord this week, we're going to kind of continue the theme, talk a little bit about pie crusts, and then I'm going to talk about pull-apart bread, and specifically one that Ryan recommended in the Facebook group. So
he went a little rogue.
He went rogue, so we're going to start with that because I know you want to talk about pie crust too, so I'll start with the pull-apart bread. So Ryan, my husband, is a member of the Facebook group now, which is kind of a recent development. Which has been kind of fun because he did say over Thanksgiving, let's make the cranberry pie that Christine had put in there, which is great. And so we made that, and that was really fun. But then he just went and like linked to a buffalo chicken pull apart tasty video, like one of those crazy videos where they're like always making something that's got a big cheese pull and
super snacky, very like savory, tasting.
Everything looks like it's like football game day food or something.
Right.
So he like suggests this in the Facebook group.
Right. I almost wanted to text you and be like, does he not have your number anymore? Like,
right. Right. Like, why is he suggesting dinner items
out of
via
context?
The Facebook group? I thought the same thing, Kate. I did.
Hilarious.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, Dorothy kindly suggested to use leftover turkey for Thanksgiving.
Which was brilliant.
Which was a really good, I had it and I thought, oh, good. Okay. So I went to Publix and they do a pre-made pizza dough in their deli department. So you get it out of like a little cooler. And they actually have it where they, it's like folded up in quarters kind of, and you can unfold it and it's just already rolled out for you.
Oh, nice.
Which is super nice. And so I just took my pizza cutter and I cut this thing into 15 little squares, and then you pile on the toppings, the buffalo chicken and the cheese, and then you put all that together and you put it in a loaf pan. And when it bakes up,
dough filling. So you're
Yes.
pulling it apart, and you got a little bit of bread, a little bit of delicious buffalo chicken.
Yes, exactly. Kate, it was pretty good. It was like delicious.
I mean, what's not to like in it? It's like dough,
Yes.
It's like beautiful dough with cheese and buffalo chicken. Like,
I
mean,
was
can't
like,
hate on that.
well, this is amazing. Later that night, Ryan was like, I don't know if I feel so great. And I was like, he's like, I think I really ate way too much of the buffalo chicken pull-apart bread. Yeah.
You're like, really? Think that's it?
Right. So it was delicious. We both said that this could be, this is like a fun Friday night instead of making pizzas or instead of doing something like that. Mm-hmm. You could really endless combinations with the pull-apart bread, Kate. I mean,
the world's your oyster.
Yeah, but I would recommend it.
Buffalo sauce. Huh. Well, I might have to try it myself. Doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, thanks to Ryan for being active on our Facebook group. And you know what, guys, listeners out there, put something on our Facebook group. You never know. It might show up in an episode.
So true. So true.
So true.
All right. So second point we had today was talking about good pie crust. And Kate, I did post in the Facebook group, but I used the Sally's Baking Addiction, her pie crust recipe for my Thanksgiving pies this year. And so I made that cranberry, Smitten Kitchen cranberry cake pie. And then I made a pumpkin pie. But her pie crust recipe, I usually make an all butter crust, but hers was half butter, half shortening. And then she said, if you are afraid of overworking your crust, do a 1/4 cup of vodka and a 1/4 cup of water. And I thought, well, let's do that because I'm not even sure if I overwork this or not. I just don't even know. But
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, like sounds like a good thing to, good insurance policy. And so I used it and it was really great. I was very happy with how that turned out. So we'll link to that.
Yeah, so +1 for Sally's Baking Addiction. I mean, I love her Instagram. It's full of like delicious looking recipes, of which I made a few and they all turn out great. And so I've never made a pie, so that was kind of... It's a fun thing. So I think, more to what you're saying, like, I don't know what it looks like. I think YouTube, unless you've got an experienced pie maker in your family or next door or a grandma you can, like, dispatch, although I think it'd be, like, great grandmas at this point that really made the most pies.
Yeah.
But, unless you can get someone to teach you hands-on, there's a lot about pie making that is very visual. You want to know, like, what does it mean to have pea-sized pieces of butter? What does it mean to have like flat pieces of butter in that pie dough? Because really what you want is something flat to make the layers. What does it look like when you can roll it out? All those sorts of things, which made me think like, hello, we're living in the age of YouTube. So I dug up some videos that I thought were particularly good. The two that I liked the most, just from like production factor and like fair enough, like people are making beautiful, and I may have not found them all. So these are kind of the major ones. I liked The Joy of Baking. And I've always liked their website. They've got really solid baking recipes, kind of like the classic dishes. And their videos are really great. And then Serious Eats actually did a really nice job with pie dough. So if you're looking for a little extra information about how to make pie, that's a great place to start. We'll put links in our website so you can get to those easily. What you may not have realized is that King Arthur Flour has a helpline. It's a 1-800 number, and we'll put it up in our web notes. But basically, you can call in and get help on any baking issue that you have, King Arthur Flour product or not. And they are super knowledgeable. They are really nice. They're nice online. They're nice at the King Arthur Flour shop, which I just went to when I went to Vermont, which was amazing. And they're really nice on the phone. So if you're looking for a little extra advice, you're like, I don't know, is my pie working or not working? Give them a call. They will talk you down. I'll put the hours in the show notes so y'all can access them at the time that you want, because I'm not sure that it's not like a 24-hour thing. You know, these are people with families. So you can check that out. We'll put it in our show notes.
Okay, coming up next week, we have The Longest Night, which is an episode with a whole bunch of like kind of cozy, delicious winter meals.
Yes, next week is all about the longest night. It's winter solstice, comfort foods, thing to eat while you're cozy, you know, all snugged up next to a candle, reading a book, you know, those ideal moments.
And that's what's for dinner this week. See you next time on The Dinner Sisters. We'll save a spot at the table for you.
Would you like a little dinner in your inbox every week? Subscribe to our newsletter by going to our website at dinnersisters.com for show notes and other fun stuff. Got some dinner ideas? Shoot us an email at dinnersisterspodcast@gmail.com. Or you can always get in contact with us via Facebook. We are at Dinner Sisters Podcast. Same thing on Instagram, Dinner Sisters Podcast there as well. Lastly, as per usual, if you like what you're hearing, please review and subscribe. And maybe tell a friend. That's how people get to know us. Thanks, and happy eating.